Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining me. I'm doing some questions and answers today, and I'm playing around with something. So, as you can tell, we are, here in the studio today, and I have a computer over here that is sending the video out. But the hard part is me seeing the questions that come in. So I tried putting an iPad over here to see if I could read the questions better. But I'm not sure if it's working. So, there's Chris and Mike and Joe. As I was just saying, I'm trying to work out being able to see your guys' questions a little better. I'm not really sure. Let's see. I'm trying to make it so that I can see the questions you ask better. Hey, there I am. All right, so maybe if I go there, I'll see. I don't know. This is kind of one of those weird things. Oh, but I don't want to listen to myself. Turn the volume off. Okay. Well, who knows? Not really sure if I'm going to see. Well, I see, hey, Mike, hey, all right, good, everybody's on. Cool. Can you hear my guitar okay? Super cool. Hey, I am seeing. Yep. Hey, cool. All right, I might have figured something out. If I can see the questions down here, that works much better. That works much better. Hey, thanks, Mike Kirby. Appreciate it. Thank you for sharing it. Okay, guys. So, for those of you that are BGU members, which I believe is pretty much everybody so far, there's a section on the BGU member forum called Ask Griff. And while it's been a little bit bumpy trying to get that working out, the whole point of it for me and the moderators getting that there was, it's a good place where, if there's something that you want to know, but it's not a simple answer, that's a good place. And so there was a question up there that I thought was the perfect type of thing for this discussion. It was about ear training. One of the members was asking, what do you recommend for ear training? And I thought, that's definitely something I can't answer, typing on the forum, but it's exactly the kind of thing that people probably would want to know about. So he had mentioned that he was working on ear training using an ear training, some software, and I forget the name. Hey, John, I can see that. Yes, I can. He had mentioned the name of the ear training software, and I'm afraid I forgot what it was. But what I thought was really interesting was he was talking about learning, like being able to recognize intervals. Okay, and so if you don't know what an interval is, like from G to D is what we call a perfect fifth. Okay, and things like this. Now, intervals are cool and all. But if I was new to trying to work on my ear to wow, Larry, you found me from Los Alamos. That's amazing. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been there though. But anyway, somebody said, how do you get sound? I don't know. Other than turning up speakers, I don't know. Anyway, so what I think is a much better place to start with ear training is learning what I call chord function. Okay, so chord function goes like this. Let's say that we're in the key of G, because G is a good key on guitar, right? The notes in the G major scale are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. So the standard harmony rule tells us that the one chord, meaning the chord built off the first note of the scale, is major. The chord built off the fourth and the fifth are also major. The chords built off the second, third, and sixth are minor, and the chord built off the seven is actually half diminished. bizarre. But anyway, that 7 chords don't come out much. So I think one of the more important things to learn is how to hear changes. For example, being able to hear how each chord functions, right? A G chord, the 1 chord, has a very specific function, okay? If I give a very, like a 3, 6, 2, 5. When I hit that 1, that really settles in, okay? That's the 1 chord's function. It's home base. It really is. There are tons of songs that never go to the 1, okay? Like, Oye Como Va. It's 2-5, 2-5, 2-5, right? Now we can listen to this all day long, but listen to what happens when I go to 1. It settles. Boom, right there, okay? You can instantly hear what a 1 chord does. Now, how are you going to practice that for yourself? Play stuff. It's really that simple. In Guitar Theory Made Useful, which is one of the courses that I have, mic, it doesn't matter, acoustic or electric. Doesn't matter. You can play this on a piano. Wouldn't make any difference. Okay? In Guitar Theory Made Useful, I purposely put, and I'm sorry that off the top of my head I don't remember which lesson, but there's a whole bunch of chord progressions for you to play. And I did them by number. 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 4, 5, 1, 1, 6, 4, 5. I did them by number like that so that if you practice them, you will start to think, oh, this is a 6 chord. What does that do? Okay? If I go 2 and 5 again, and then I go to 6, you're instantly going to recognize that, okay? If you listen to like a lot of oldies music, it'd be in a major key. And then for the bridge, it would go to the minor, it'd go to the 6. So when you hear it, you're like, oh, there's the 6. As I like to describe it, every chord becomes an actor on the stage playing a part, okay? And, somebody's comic relief. Somebody is the hero, the 1, right? So every chord, every function, the 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, they all have their place, okay? A lot of them will make things not feel settled. That doesn't sound at all done because it's a 3 chord. 3 chord really wants to go somewhere else. Okay? Take it to 4, take it to the 6, it doesn't really matter. Interesting little side note here is that chords like to move, music likes to move in fourths. Okay, so what I mean by that is from the 1 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4. It likes to go to the 4, right? It's the 12-bar blues. 1, 2, 3, 4. We go from the 1 chord to the 4 chord. Where do we go next? 4, 3, 2, 1. We go down a fourth. Okay? Where do we go next? To the 5. Well, the 1 to the 5 is down 4. 1 down from there is 7, 6, 5. Right? So 1, 7, 6, 5. It's a fourth. We're going down a fourth to the 5 chord. Up a fifth, down a fourth, same thing. Up a fourth, down a fifth, same thing. It's just an octave displaced. Music likes to move in fourths. The next, that's where like the still got the blues progression, right? It's go a fourth from the D minor to the G, go a fourth to the C, go a fourth to the F, go a fourth to the B, go a fourth to the E, go a fourth to the A minor, go a fourth to the D. It's a circle of fourths. Music loves to move in fourths. Our ear loves the sound of fourths, okay? If you're hearing chord progressions and you're hearing that, okay, I'm not really sure what come next, but boy, it sure feels natural, well, then it's probably a fourth. Or the next closest thing that music likes to do is go to the very next chord in the scale. For example, 5 to 4. All right, 5, 4 to 1, right? So we went from the 5 to the very next chord, which was the 4, and from there we went to the 1. And we could probably go through about 7,000 songs and find that 6,500 of them stick to moving in fourths or moving to the very next chord. Okay. Now sometimes you'll get the oddball one that'll move by a third. But imagine, okay, if you're pretty comfortable hearing moving by fourths and then moving to the very next chord, right? Or right, if you hear two minor chords right next to each other, you know they're 2 and 3. They have to be. Okay, that's one of my favorite tricks, which is also in guitar theory. Same with 4 to 5. 2 major chords right next to one another. That's great. So therefore, the other thing that you want to train your ear to do is to hear the difference between major and minor chords. How are you going to do that if you're the one playing? Well, just record yourself. You know, pick some chords at random. And just listen. Do they sound major? Do they sound minor? Try to pick really random chords, okay? Or maybe there's software out there that will help with this sort of thing. I don't know. But being able to distinguish between a major chord and a minor chord, a happy chord and a sad chord, that's probably one of the first things you're going to need to be able to do, because when you hear chord changes, you're going to have to be able to tell the difference between a major and a minor. That's a pretty big deal. If you can hear, oh, that chord is major, well, then you just narrowed it down to either being a 1, a 4, or a 5, because we know that the standard harmony rule says it's either 1, 4, or 5. There's not a lot of options. You just eliminated like 85% of the fretboard, so that's really handy. Okay, I don't have perfect pitch. I never have. I have pretty good relative pitch, but mostly I hear chord function. Okay, I hear, oh, that's a 1 chord. I hear what that does. I go, oh, that chord's major. Well, I know it's 5, 4, or 1. Sure doesn't sound like a 1. Sure doesn't sound like a 5. Because 5 really wants to go back to 1. That's why they call it the dominant. It's got what's called a leading tone in it. Okay, it's, again, you play it a few times, it doesn't really matter what you call it. You know, I'll give you names for everything in Guitar Theory Made Useful, but the main thing is that you hear it and go, oh yeah, I know that move. I don't even care what you call it. It doesn't matter what you call it, as long as you recognize it. Okay. A lot of times I'll say that too. You don't have to be right. You just have to find an explanation that works for you. A lot of times with theory, there's not a right explanation. You know, there's way more than one way to describe a lot of different chord progressions or a lot of different things that happen in music. You know, the music comes first. We describe it next. So however it works for you to describe that, oh, this sounds good, I want to do this again, that's what you want to do. So that's kind of my pitch, I'll say, on ear training. It has more to do, I think, with understanding some of the theory behind music and how it likes to work. And if you practice going through those chord progressions and you concentrate on the fact that, okay, this is a 6 chord, this is a 4 chord, this is a 5 chord, and everything's still going, everybody's still there, okay? It sort of looked like it stopped. But if you go through the chord progressions and you are cognizant, you're just aware of what's going on. Oh, I'm playing a 4 chord. Most people just aren't aware. Oh, this is a 4 chord. This is what it sounds like. That's really all it is. It's just experience. Okay? Well, I see. Okay, looks like people are still there. So that's kind of all I'll say about ear training for today. But I think that hopefully that makes a lot of sense. When you get to where you can hear chord function and you can hear the type of chord, you know, whether it's major or minor or whatever, things like intervals should come later. I think those are much more challenging, you know, and I think Laura's on here too. She probably agree with me on that one. She probably, you know, she went through traditional college music theory like I did, where you have to, you know, do intervals, and it's really hard. You know, you have to be like, that's a major 7th, that's a 6th. You can use like famous melodies. That's what I do. So that is a perfect 5th, right? So there's you You know, things like that. The Star Wars melody, that's a perfect fifth. I can't, what's that, Top Gun? Or Here Comes the Bride, that's a fifth. Let's see, the NBC logo, that's a major sixth. Little things like that. Chris, power chords and small chords are not the same thing. That was my speech about intervals. Let me answer Chris's question. Power chords. Okay, a little bit of theory. A chord has to have a root and a third and a fifth, theoretically. That's called a triad. That's the simplest chord we're supposed to be able to make. So, a C major chord, for example, C, E, G. And I have another C and another E. So I have 3 notes in my chord. Theoretically, you have to have at least 3 notes to make a chord. Power chords don't. Power chords don't have a third. Power chords specifically are only a root and a fifth. They don't have a third, so they are therefore not major or minor. That gives them a very interesting purpose. The very interesting purpose is they sound really great in rock music. Because with distortion and only roots and fifths, they sound good. As soon as we start adding in thick harmony with a lot of distortion, maybe not so good, right? So I can play a G power chord like this with only 2 notes, or I can play it like that with 5 notes. What makes it a power chord is the fact that it's only got 2 notes, a G and a D. A little chord, on the other hand, is a small voicing, meaning only 2 or 3 strings, of a bigger chord. So this is a G7, but I'm only playing the flatted 7th and the 3rd and maybe the 5th. So I'm taking this big chord and just playing a little part of it, okay? And this is like when you go through Blues Guitar Unleashed, the first lesson, you know, has these bar chords, and everybody freaks out over the bar chords, okay? And you learn like that 7th shape. Well, the reason that you learn that 7th shape is so that you can learn that little one. Oh yeah, Mike, you're right. In case you didn't catch what I'm talking about, Chris had asked the difference between power chords and small chords, if they were the same thing. So power chords being only 2 notes, even if you repeat them, small chords being a little voicing, or a little piece of a larger chord. That's really what it boils down to. And like I was saying, when you're going through BGU, in the first 2 or 3 lessons, you're doing these full voicings. And the reason we do those full voicings first is so that when I show you the small voicings in the 4th chapter, you know where they come from and you can find them, because usually the root isn't there. Okay, so like if we're learning G7 and A7 and B7, we have that root, right, that we can use to find those chords. Well, if I take that root away, it's really hard to find those chords. So that's why we have the big version that we learn first, and then later I say, okay, well, you're never really going to use that. What I mean is you're probably never going to play that in a band situation, but you're going to use it. You're going to imagine those notes are there, because that's going to help you find where you want to be. Okay? Let's see. So William, relative pitch can be better than absolute pitch. Yeah, I agree. Knowing and hearing chord relation and knowing how to play within chords. I think relative pitch is probably more useful as far as, you know, being useful. Having perfect pitch is from everybody I've known that has perfect pitch a burden. If you know, they hear like a beer bottle ting and they're like, it's not quite a B flat, and the world is a little bit out of tune to them, and I've heard that's unpleasant at best. Okay, Dave, let's see, not about recognizing intervals, but more about developing taste around tones. You once talked about playing E minor pentatonic over A9. The house pattern works also, and the A minor arpeggio. All of those give a ton of options in roughly the same position. Does switching back and forth get too chromatic? No, I don't think so at all, Dave. You know, the reality is that at the end of the day, if we're playing over a blues, okay, let me kind of show you. So let's say we're playing blues in A. I'm going to use G. Okay, so at the end of the day, the notes that I can use comfortably over this G7 are basically a G major pentatonic or a G minor pentatonic and the blue notes. So that ends up being a root, a second, a flat third, a fourth, a flat fifth, a sixth, a flat seventh, and a root. Okay? Now in Slow Blues Supplement, I write that all out because we do talk about that in the Slow Blues Supplement. That's kind of what I call the universe of notes that you have available to you. It's a lot of notes, and as you can tell, even if you just play it, I call it not the combination. I forgot the name I called it. It's both major and minor blues scales stuck together. And here's, again, here's one of those things about theory. You can call that the major and the minor blues scales, played both at the same time. You could call it the Mixolydian scale with both a flat third and a flat five added, the two blue notes. You could call it a Dorian scale with a major third and a flat fifth added. You could call it a major scale with a flat seven and a flat five and a flat third. There's a whole bunch of different ways to describe that. So again, that's where we're talking about, theory being however you want it to work. But if you use all of those notes together, it sounds really chromatic, as you could probably tell, if I were to play that, I do sometimes. And I do stuff like that. And I do it because it sounds super, super chromatic. And it's kind of jazzy and it's kind of outside. So that doesn't sound very good, I don't think. I mean, I like the sound of it in small doses. I certainly wouldn't want to play like that all the time. On the other hand, if I compartmentalize my notes, for example, I use a little G major blues, and then a little G minor, then a little G major, okay, then maybe the D minor, and back to G major. Okay, so I can sort of compartmentalize different sections of that, and when I do that, I like the sound much better. So I hope that answers your question. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it might. The function of tritones in chords, John. Well, a tritone is the name of the interval. It's either a diminished fifth or an augmented fourth. In a diminished seventh chord, we have a flat seven and a third. And those two notes are a tritone. That's the interval apart. That's it. That's what a tritone is. It doesn't have any purpose. It's not necessarily anything special. I know you hear about it a lot. I just don't know why. But that's that interval. Now, interestingly enough, if I go, so if I take that and break it down a half step, fill in the rest, it's the 4 chord. So over the 1 chord, a G, that's the flat 7, that's the third. If I move them down a half step, that's the third, that's the flat 7th. So they've switched. So it just depends on what the root is. Okay? How do you find or discover the key of a song? Moving in fourths is easier to work out if you know where to start. Okay, well, remember, Brian, that I was talking about getting used to the function of the chords. And if you missed that, I apologize. But I'll repost this on the blog for anybody who came in late. So you listen to the song until you hear 1. And you will, if you have kind of practiced this a little bit. If you practice playing some chord progressions and get to where you hear, oh, that's 1, that's what that sounds like, you'll hear 1. It's pretty tough not to when you've gone through the process of practicing this for a little while. So when I hear the 1, then I know what I'm working with. To be honest, if you understand your theory fairly well and your modes and your standard harmony rule, it doesn't really matter which note you choose. All you have to do is sort of choose home base. Just choose, you look at a song like Sweet Home Alabama or Can't You See, which is based around D, but it's not in the key of D, it's in the key of G. But that's fine. You go, well, there's a D major chord and there's a C major chord. If I know my standard harmony rule, right away I see my trick, which is 2 major chords a whole step apart. That's 4 and 5. I know 1 is G. Done. It's that simple, and it is every time. And you'll be hard pressed to find songs that won't fit within that framework. So the two biggies, and I'm sorry I can't remember which lessons out of Guitar Theory Made Useful this is covered in, but I believe it's around lesson 9 or 10, and I have 2 shortcuts, and they're very simple. If you have 2 minor chords a whole step apart, they're 2 and 3, according to the standard harmony rule. And if you have 2 major chords a whole step apart, they're 4 and 5, and it's always going to work that way. And you, like I say, you'll be hard pressed to find songs that won't fall within that. All right. Oh, nice to see you. Okay, Dave. Oh, Dave. Hey, man. What time is it in Australia, Dave? Or are you in Australia right now? And Jerome, am I pronouncing that right? Jerome Vanek. Thank you for joining me. And Dave, any other questions? Oh, there was one other Ask Griff question, and it was about the basically which course is the best course for learning the pentatonic scales. This is a surprising thing to me. I'm going to give you my speech, and I'm going to answer your question. It's 7:30 tomorrow morning. Wow. That's so cool. So this is actually a pretty decent time. Although, what are you doing up at 7:30 on a Saturday? You working today? Anyway. Okay, so here's the thing. Learning pentatonic scales, or learning blues scales. By the way, if you don't know, the blues scale is nothing but the pentatonic scale with the blue note added. We talk about that in BGU. We talk about it in pentatonic scale and technique mastery. But it's not anything fancy. So if I say blues scale, if I say minor blues scale, and you think, oh, well, what about the minor pentatonic scale? Same thing. Whatever I say, it goes both ways. If I say major blues sound, it's the same as major pentatonic scale. It's all the same. Sometimes I say sound, sometimes I say scale. Sometimes I say pentatonic, sometimes I say blues. If I'm going to make a point of one versus the other, you'll know. But it almost never happens. So a lot of people think, okay, well, I want to learn how to solo. I got to go learn all 5 boxes of the pentatonic scale. And that is a huge endeavor that will do not absolutely nothing, but very little towards helping you become a soloist. And I'm sorry about that. It's a common misconception. Will you need and will you use the minor blues scale or the major blues scale? Absolutely, you will. They will come into play. Is it best to try and learn it all over the fretboard, all 5 boxes first? Not so much. Not so much. It's one of the reasons Blues Guitar Unleashed, I do it in sections. You learn the first pattern and a solo to go with that pattern. You learn the second pattern and a solo that combines them. You learn the third pattern and we combine them all. You learn the fourth pattern and we combine them all. Okay, there's a reason for that. You have to kind of get used to it. It's one of the reasons the 4-note solo came to be. The story behind that, I don't know if Gary's here. Modes are actually, Jerome, modes are actually very simple. I'm working on something about modes, by the way, so it'll be a while, several weeks probably before you see it, but I'll be able to take care of that too. That's something that's come up a lot. But anyhow, so the reason that the 4-note solo I think was so popular. It was really true. The story behind that is absolutely true. I was literally sitting in my little room with a student, and he knew every mode, every pentatonic box, everything. And then one day I was just like, oh, let's just play, and it was a deer in the headlights and nothing. And when I limited him to 4 notes and said, make your solo here. He played, and he played great, and I realized that a lot of people are missing the forest for the trees where that's concerned. So, thank you, Jerome. Appreciate it. And oh, hey, Diego. And so anyway, the point is, learn one pattern. Maybe learn the 4-note solo pattern. Maybe learn the house pattern. Maybe learn box 1. Learn one pattern and play with it for a while and get comfortable with it. Then you add to that. Don't try to eat the elephant all in one bite. Okay. That being said, in answer to your question, I teach the pentatonic boxes in 2 different courses. One of them is called Pentatonic Scale and Technique Mastery. Pentatonic Scale and Technique Mastery is nothing but playing scales and playing them faster. Period. It's nothing more than drilling technique. There are no solo examples. There's none of that kind of stuff. There's plenty of stuff that's very useful for soloing, but there's nothing about usage. It's strictly about, because a lot of people were struggling to play the solos in Blues Guitar Unleashed up to speed, and I realized how many people were not counting. Those of you that did the Blues Triplet Mania Challenge back in January, February know exactly what I'm talking about. And literally using the ideas in Pentatonic Scale and Technique Mastery that I did for that challenge. I don't think anybody, we had 100 and change people that did that challenge. Maybe it might have even been 200. Not a single person who followed the instructions for that 30-day challenge saw less than a 20% improvement in their speed, which is, I think, a pretty big deal and really very cool. And it also goes to prove that when you focus on something, you get better at it. But also it was, focusing on it and doing it the right way. And that methodology is in Pentatonic Scale and Technique Mastery. However, you can also learn the blues scales in the Blues Guitar Unleashed, which is now in the 2.0. I just call it Blues Guitar Unleashed, but I mean Blues Guitar Unleashed 2.0. It's been out for a couple of years now. We do cover all of the pentatonic scales in addition to rhythm elements and solos and how to play hammer-ons and pull-offs and bends and all that different kinds of stuff that you might need to play the music with the pentatonic scales. So I hope that answers the question. How do I avoid tendonitis? Good question, Robert. Anymore, I had tendonitis very badly in my 20s. I studied classical guitar for several years. And of course, I was in college. I was literally playing a guitar 10 to 12 hours a day, and I definitely suffered. Diet and chiropractic and acupuncture and massage. That's it. The better I eat and sleep and take care of myself as a whole, the less I have issues with tendonitis. It's really that simple. I don't, at least in my experience, you can't just focus on your hands. You kind of have to focus on the whole body. What's the house pattern? I'll show you really quick, but it's, like if that's an A on the 2nd string, 10th fret, it's that 8th and 10, 8 and 10 on the top 2 strings, plus the 9th fret below it. And you can, that's if you use it in a minor sense. And that is a minor pentatonic scale. If you turn it around here, you can use it in sort of a major sense, but it's no scale. And what I'll do from there is I'll direct you to head over to either the Blues Guitar Unleashed YouTube channel or scroll down the Facebook page. 2 or 3 Fridays ago, we talked almost exclusively about the house pattern. And I went on, and there's a lot there, so you might want to check that out. All right. Hey, Michael. Dave, another tone. When you solo, do you usually target the root of the chord you're playing over, or does it sound better? So the question is, which note of a chord do I target? In jazz, we say that the 7ths and the 3rds are the most important notes, followed by the roots, followed by the 5ths. So if I'm using more of a jazz sensibility, that's where I'm going to focus. However, blues is very root heavy, so if I'm going old school Freddie King, B.B. King type stuff, I'm probably targeting roots a lot, yes. Usually I target the root over the 1 chord, and I target flat 7s and 3rds over the 4 and 5. So that's another little trick that you might want to use. What action do I recommend for the guitar? That's really a matter of personal taste. my action is, I'll say, moderate. It's not super low and it's not super high. I like it that way, but I'm a little bit unusual. Most people prefer it lower than I do. So unfortunately, there's no set answer there. You have to sort of try it out. Hopefully, you have a good, guy, somebody who can do good adjustment. But really, you just have to try it out and figure out what feels comfortable to you. Play. No, probably not what you had in mind. I'll play a little bit in a minute. Okay, Squire Strat. Oh yeah, your Squire Strat. It feels difficult to get up to speeds. Yeah, Suraj. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Get your guitar into somebody who knows what they're doing, if at all possible. Make sure the neck is seated properly and is straight with a slight curve to it. It shouldn't be absolutely flat. And if you're struggling with it, then yeah, try and get the action down. That's probably a good place to start. There's nothing more irritating than trying to play and having it be uncomfortable to play because the action's bad. Oh yeah, I got it. Good. All right, thanks. All right, well, cool. Hey, Tim. Just saying that you're having a blast. Thank you. Glad you're having fun with it. And if you're on my email list, hopefully you heard about the big Father's Day weekend. Kind of a big deal. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk courses today, because I know a lot of times maybe you got a couple. There's I have sort of a map of the different courses. A lot of people, they'll start with Blues Guitar Unleashed. Basically, every other course that I've made after Blues Guitar Unleashed has come from the fact that there was something missing. I found a gap in what everybody knew. So what first started happening was people would start BGU that had almost no skills whatsoever and hadn't been playing but like a month, and they jump into BGU, which I'm like, well, this is too hard. So that's where beginning blues guitar came from. So beginning blues guitar is literally you go from which way is up. Okay, like if you've never picked up your guitar before, it'll take you all the way through counting and rhythm and timing and all the way through bar chords. Okay, so every skill that you might need to know to be ready to play everything in Blues Guitar Unleashed is in beginning blues guitar. That's where that came from. Soloing without scales was basically taking that 4-note solo idea and just going crazy with it. And a lot of people really enjoyed that because it was a way to get into improvising quickly and easily. And it's a different approach. The box approach that we use in BGU and in so many other places is a common approach, but it doesn't work for everybody. And so that's what the soloing without scales concept is all about. It's about thinking, okay, this is a root, this is a third, here's my little pattern, and I can just move it around. Okay. Okay, so Jeff, thinking of adding a new should be how to improvise blues solos, soloing without scales, or blues construction. Okay, this will be a supplement, still working through BG, but I messed around with the house pattern. Okay, so Jeff, what I would say, if you, again, it sort of depends on what you want to focus on or what you're struggling with BGU. Given the choices that you put out there, if your goal is to get in and get soloing quickly, soloing without scales would probably be a great choice. Now, John, who was on here earlier, swears by the Blues Solo Construction Kit. The Blues Solo Construction Kit, I gotta be honest, is about the coolest thing ever, but I don't know how to explain what it is. But it took me so many years to figure out the pattern. Blues Solo Construction Kit is literally takes a 12-bar form, and I went through like hundreds. You could ask Laura, she would come home and I'd have all like 2 or 3 monitors full of transcriptions up and I'm literally looking for patterns. I was looking for rhythmic patterns between all these different solos. And I know this is going to sound weird, but this is the stuff that I do on a Saturday night when we don't go somewhere. So if you look at all these different solos, what I discovered was a lot of times, you know, they'll start with a lick, and then there's a gap here, say measure 2, and then they do another lick, and then there's often a gap, you know, measure 4 or whatever. So there's these standard places where the licks fall. And then I went through a whole bunch of solos and just ripped out, since I had them all up, I literally just copied them out. And so what I did is made it so that I divided the 12-bar blues into, I think it's 7 positions for a slow blues and 5 for a shuffle blues. And so you can literally just plug in. So I did 5 licks for each of the positions. So for the first position, so for the first lick, you could choose any one of these 5. For the next lick, you could choose any one of these 5. For the next lick, any one of these 5. And you can't possibly, you can literally like throw darts at it, and it'll work. You can't possibly get it wrong. I think it's ingenious. I thought it was really, really cool. I've gotten a lot of good feedback on it, but admittedly, it's not a big seller because it's kind of hard to understand exactly that it's a really unique idea. It's certainly something that you won't find anywhere else. So that's kind of a cool thing. How to improvise blues solos. If you struggle with counting, how to improvise blues solos will both fix that and frustrate the heck out of you simultaneously. It's all about counting. And how to improvise blues solos and strumming and rhythm mastery are the 2 courses that I would give every single guitar player if I could. They are courses that, you know, you've heard the term a spoonful of sugar. There ain't no spoonful of sugar in either of those. They take care of business. and maybe Dave or Mike or somebody who's done how to improvise blues solos can jump in on that one too. But yeah, anyway, that they'll fix the problem. You know, how to improvise blues solos will fix the counting issue, and it will teach you. It'll shine a big giant spotlight on every timing deficiency you have. I think of that as a plus, but you might not. Oh, thanks, Richard. This is my Austin. John, I don't know if you're still on, but I got this one at the airport when I came out to see you. Let's see. Okay, Mike, I spent 2 years learning the 5 boxes. Now I need rhythm. What's the best course? Okay, Mike, if you don't... Oh, hey, Chuck. How you doing, buddy? Good to hear from you. Chuck Fleming, ladies and gentlemen, are one of our fearless forum moderators. Yeah, Mike, be careful. You may decide to burn your guitars. That's for your question, Jeff. Mike, if you don't have the original Blues Guitar Unleashed, the 2.0 version, that's what I would tell you to get. There's a whole lot of rhythm in there, as well as a whole lot of lead stuff. Now, if you already have that and you're looking for more ideas, I have a course called 52 Rhythm Fills and Variations that I know the other Mike who's talking right now got a lot out of as well. So that might be, that's where I would suggest you go. That, for, I'll say, next level rhythm stuff, it's 52 Rhythm Fills and Variations, has just a ton of great ideas. And that's really all it is. There's not as much, for blues rhythm, there's truly not as much. Now, if you're looking to step outside of the blues, of course, Classic Rock Guitar Unleashed, or Strumming and Rhythm Mastery. There's almost no blues in Strumming and Rhythm Mastery. It's funk and country and pop and all kinds of other stuff. So that might, you know, that's another alternative. Oh, well, thanks, Jeff. Jeff says 52 is great. So yeah, that might be really good for you. All right. What time is it? I'm not paying attention. Oh, 2:45. We're doing a long one today. Hey, how about if I play a little bit? Let's have some fun. I wonder if you guys can hear. I have some jam tracks. Somebody wanted me to play, so I'll play a little bit. Let's see. Let's do a little something from Ultimate Blues Jams Volume 2. I don't even know if Ultimate Blues Jams Volume 2 is on... play the Black Cat Bone intro. Oh, yeah. That's right. I remembered you wanted to see that. Okay, so Mike, this one's for you. So I don't know if I'm going to play this exactly, you know me, I don't know if I'm going to play it exactly the same way once. But we play it in C. So the trick to this, as it is for a lot of things, is the ability to strike all the strings and only hear one. Okay? So again, this first finger is very loose. Okay? It's just kind of floppy there. It's muting everything out. So I'm starting out 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Okay, so that's my pinky across. By the way, that's the 10th fret on the 4th string. And I do either those two notes, the 11th fret on the top 2 strings, or I'll do the 11, 11, and then 11, 10. I move that one down. So it's like 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and that's the little 10th fret on the 2nd and 3rd, 8th fret on the 2nd and 3rd, back to the 10th fret, back to my root. And I might hit the chord once in a while. But probably the biggest key to that is the fact that I'm not, it's not necessarily planned. My right hand just keeps moving, and I just kind of, when I want to hear one thing or the other, I play it, but it's always one of those things, but I tend to kind of mix and match as I go. So that's why Mark likes to say I never play anything the same way once, is because I sort of just like to put the puzzle pieces together into something right now. So those are the 3 puzzle pieces, or the 4 puzzle pieces, is that root, and then that top, one of those 2 for that, and then that move, and then instead of that, I might play the chord. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Yeah, let me know, Mike, if that makes sense to you, and if you've got your guitar and you're trying it out and cursing me. The hardest part is the mute. You know, it's funny because I was talking to somebody. John was over, one of my another student, and we were talking about this, like for "Don't Lie." It's what makes stuff like that work. It's all, you know, that up strum is always nothing, and then I come down, and so you can see, like, again, I've got my first, maybe second fingers kind of flopping over and muting stuff out. My third finger, in addition to playing that note, is muting out the 5th string. So it's playing. Sorry, there's a light there. Hold on, let me move this. There. Okay, so there's, in addition to playing, notice that I'm not holding it like this. Okay? I'm holding it like this. And so in addition to playing that note on the 4th string, it's muting out the 5th string. And then my thumb is muting out the 6th string, or my middle finger is reaching over. So I'm hitting every single string every time. Same for like SRV stuff, lesson 10. See, I'm hitting everything, right? And especially once you add a little tube screamer to this. Yeah, I might have got a little carried away. Anyway, you get the idea. Okay, so yeah, hopefully that kind of gives you something to go with. All right, well, I don't see any other questions at the moment. I should probably get back to doing some work today. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. This was fun. And let's see. Let's play something. By the way, so I'm gonna use as my jam track something from Ultimate Blues Jams Volume 2. I don't even know if that's on the course catalog, and if it's not, I'll try and check that because I'm always bad about that. Let's see. Let's just do blues in A. Let's have some fun. All right, so here we go. Little blues in A. Can you hear the backing track? Fun. Thanks for indulging me. All right, well, hey, that's all. Oh, last question. If I wanted to use the construction kit to create a solo for Black Cat Bone, which kit should I start with? Oh, good question. I would probably use the shuffle. Now, here's the thing. That's a really, really good question, and here's why. Okay, so a shuffle, Mike's question was, if I wanted to use the Blue Solo Construction Kit to create a solo for Black Cat Bone, which kit would you start with? I would do the shuffle kit, and here's why. A shuffle is divided in three, right? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the kind of funk shuffly groove that happens in Black Cat Bone is, you can sort of think of it as each beat is divided into 6 pieces. In fact, there's even sextuplets at the end of that. So what you would do is you would take, let me think about this, you would take the licks out of the, oh man, you would take the licks, hold on, I'm gonna bring it up, all right? I'm gonna take a look at it. This will probably never work out because I'm gonna go away from Facebook now, and I'll miss all the questions. Where is that? Oh man, that's a great, you know what? That's a great question. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna play with that. You stumped me. You stumped me, because what I'm thinking is that, like, if you took a lick from the well, see, now the other one, the thing is that the slow blues is also triplet based. You're going to double time one of them, okay? So for example, and probably the slow blues ones are easier to double time. but basically you're going to take what would be in one beat and put it in a half a beat. Okay, so that's how they're going to work with that sort of funk feel, but you're going to have to, squeeze them all together. I think that's going to be the way to do that, but I'm going to have to try it. Now, as you may know, I might forget. Although this will percolate around in there, you may want to send me a message on the forum to remind me. But I think, but assuming that I'm right about this, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make a video of it, because I'm sure you're not the only person that's stumped by that. Yeah, playing Stump the Band. Yeah, in this case, I'm the band, though. But yeah, it's only because I can't actually think of... I know there's a ton of licks in there, but I made that a couple of years ago, and so I can't, off the top of my head, I just don't have those in front of me. I could do it, but I need to have some of the licks in front of me and stuff to do it. So let's save that for another time. Dallas States, yes, and I'm working on that, and Mike's going to help me with that. He just doesn't know it yet, but I'm working on that. That's actually a project for next week. So hopefully, David, I should have dates. I'm planning on, I think it's the, I'll say 6th, 7th, and 8th of October. It's like that Thursday, Friday, Saturday in October, whatever that first or second. I could look up the date and tell you, but that's what I'm hoping to get. And let's see. Yeah, Houston, John. Well, I got it. I'm doing Dallas first. Maybe Houston next year. I don't know. We're working on it. I know David. Well, and now we got Rob from Melbourne too. Rob Johnston. Say hi to David Berlew. You guys are both from Melbourne. I don't know if you guys know each other, but if you don't, you should. And we're already getting people asking about being in Australia one of these days. So who knows? Wes, I haven't made it to Chicago. In fact, if you can believe it, I've never been to Chicago in my whole life. My oldest son is going off to school in Ann Arbor, Michigan this fall, which is fairly close. I have some friends in Chicago. I have friends from Chicago, but I somehow never seem to manage to get there. So, yeah, Hawaii. You want to do BG Hawaii? You know what? I did a gig in Hawaii once. I actually played for a week in Hawaii, and man, that was a pain. But who knows? It would be the most expensive BGU ever, is the problem. It'd be the most expensive Blues Guitar Unleashed live. To tell you the truth, Hawaii might even be more expensive than Australia. I don't know. But anyway, hey from North Georgia. Hey, Ernie. Yeah, so, Wes, I haven't made it to Chicago in answer to your question. But I'll definitely keep you guys posted. And thanks for hanging for so long. My goodness, we've been here almost an hour or so. And this is great. Yeah, I know. Laura would, it'd be fun to go to Hawaii. We went to Hawaii once. It was a few years ago, and it's lovely. So, anyway, I will get a recording. Facebook, records these. I can download them from my end. So I will definitely. Rick, I'm all down with going to Nashville again. Yep, definitely all down with that. So. Anyhow, listen, guys. I'm gonna head out and get some stuff done today. Thanks for joining me. Again, I will post this on the blog. I'll download it probably shortly and send you an email tomorrow about it. Again, if you have questions about stuff, please hit me up in the member forum. Anyone who's bought any of my courses, you have an account on the forum. It happens automatically. So if you don't know your login, it's bluesguitarunleashed.com/forum. If you don't know your login, just type in your email address or hit the forgot password, and it'll actually go to another page where it'll ask you for your email address and then send you a password. So you should be there if you're not there already. All right, and yes, another one soon. Well, I'll try and do it in another Friday or two. I like the Friday afternoon thing. It works good for me, and it allows me to talk about some of the things in the Ask Griff category on the forum. So. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining me. Take care, and I will talk to you soon. If I can figure out how to stop it. Well, I can't stop it.